Hello and welcome to Crooked House Gaming. Here at Crooked House Gaming, we like to explore the gameplay of simulation games, usually through a series of Let's Plays. In this episode, we will continue to explore the gameplay of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a political sim that lets you choose the role of a world leader and govern a country. If this sounds like something that you'd be interested in, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. We are presently playing as the Prime Minister of Canada. We are in our 4th year of our first term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's get into the gameplay. Demand from a donor. One of your major party donors, Elizabeth Wong, is insisting that you placate them by implementing a special policy, vertical farming subsidies. If you refuse to do so, they will abandon their financial support of the Radical Reform Party. Well, vertical farms seem pretty radical, so let's implement the policy. Vertical farm subsidies. Farmland is getting rare, but recent innovations in architecture and agriculture could easily be bundled to make vertical farming in cities feasible. Food production in vertical farms requires more resources, but reduced transport costs mitigate that problem. It's 0% popular with the vote. It would probably lower food prices. Unemployment would go down. Yeah, we'll do it to about there, and we will apply the changes and appease our donor. Native species extinct. A highly visible native species of animal has been declared extinct. Erosion of their natural habitat and poaching are to blame. The government's inability to protect our nation's natural resources has enraged environmentalists. Environmentalists are unhappy at -20. Environmentalist membership has gone up +12. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, media monopoly on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The government is currently running a budget deficit of $19.28 billion. We should take some steps to reduce this. Polls report. The polls are optimistic. If an election was held tomorrow, we suspect we would get 73% of the vote. Economic forecast. Good news, the global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as supportive. Their effectiveness is generally to be considered passable. We have zero political capital left to spend as we appease that major donor, so we are at the end of our first term of our 4th year as Prime Minister of Canada. We are going to be entering the second term of our 4th year as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. Ban animal testing. There is an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. A proposal to ban all animal experimentation has been placed before the government by pressure groups. We are currently have quite a few people working in industries that use animal testing, but it is also a highly unpopular practice. Ban it. In this day and age, there's no good reason to test any products on animals, especially cosmetics. Practices used are often incredibly cruel, and a ban would have widespread public support and little real impact on industry. No change. Products are only tested on animals in order to ensure there's no chance of danger to humans. It's only done as a last resort under controlled conditions. If we impose such a drastic ban, it would hit our cosmetic and pharmaceutical industries badly. We're banning it. This day and age, we can find other ways to test products. Environmentalists are happy at +8. The GDP has taken a hit at -2%. Unemployment is up +1%, and we are seen as compassionate at +10%. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, gig economy on our hands if we do not act soon. Government is currently running a deficit of $20.27 billion. We should take steps to reduce this. The polls are optimistic. If an election was held tomorrow, we suspect we would get 74% of the vote. Election report. Our party, the Radical Reform Party, is getting more popular. In the last quarter, we added 292,977 new members and 19,531 new activists. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as supportive. Their effectiveness is generally to be considered adequate. Economic forecast. Good news, the global economy is doing well, and it is having a positive effect on our GDP. Let's continue. So it looks like we lost political capital. Let's take a look at our ministers. Yeah, this gentleman is cranky. He's with parents and capitalists. We don't have a lot of choices here. Public tax returns. Unfortunately, some wealthy people in our society try to avoid taxes with illegal tax evasion methods. By making tax returns public, people can now check if someone is using loopholes or abusing the system. This full disclosure will encourage the support of the system, as well as reducing tax evasion and forcing everyone to be able to justify their income. Let's implement this. While this is not popular with voters, perhaps the people who have been evading taxes will pay taxes and we will get money back into our government. This is showing some details right now. We will bring it to all details right there. We will apply the changes. We have 2 political capital left to spend. Drug treatment scheme. Punishing people for taking illegal drugs only goes so far. What people really need is treatment and a long-term plan to get people off their dependence on narcotics. These schemes aim to fight drug issue by reducing demand instead of limiting the supply. We are going to put one political capital into this. We will apply the changes. I am going to put one more political capital into free school meals. Not only are free school meals a way of redistributing wealth by ensuring everyone can afford to feed their children, it is also a way to ensure that children eat healthy rather than survive purely on junk food. We still have an obesity problem on our hands here in Canada. If children are eating better, this will reduce the obesity in children. We will apply our last political capital to this. We have zero political capital left to spend. We are at the end of our second term of our fourth year as Prime Minister of Canada. We are now entering the third term of our fourth year as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. Health is up. Gay adoption. There is an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. There is currently a high publicized court case where same-sex couple are claiming they are being discriminated against because they have been waiting so long for a child to adopt. It's time you told the public where you stand in this debate. Support gay adoption. It's heartbreaking to think that a loving couple desperate to adopt a child could be treated with such discrimination by public servants. We should enforce in law the principle that same-sex couples should be treated no differently to anybody else by our adoption service. Oppose gay adoption. Obviously, the most important thing is the welfare of the child, not scoring points with political pressure groups or movements. The simple fact that a child is better off raised by a mother and a father. It is absolutely fair that heterosexual couples are prioritized by the adoption service. I am part of the Radical Reform Party and I support gay adoption. Religious are unhappy at negative 10%. The Liberals are happy at plus 10%. Parents are happy at plus 10%. Budget report. There's a budget deficit of $21.68 billion. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. You are popular amongst the majority of the voters. We predict you would get 71% of the vote in an election. Election report. Our party, the Radical Reform Party, is getting more popular. Last quarter, we added 411,570 new members and 39,197 new activists. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as supportive. Their effectiveness is generally to be considered adequate. Let's continue. We have 16 political capital left to spend. We have problems with pollution, so we are going to do pollution controls. Granted, this is only 12% popular with the vote, but we have lung disease and pollution issues in Canada. Restrictions on what chemicals and emissions can be released into the atmosphere. Controls reduce pollution and increase health, possibly at the cost of economic competitiveness. Right now, we have government targets. I am going to use 2 political capital and do restrictions and fines. The environmentalists will be happy with this, and the GDP will go down, CO2 emissions will go down, and the environment will improve. We will apply the changes. Take a look at our subsidies. We are going to do some enterprise investment schemes. This will help the GDP. The enterprise investment scheme is a system which gives tax breaks to the wealthy individuals who invest their money in small startup companies which are based in this country. The scheme encourages investment in companies, should eventually grow and stimulate the economy, whilst at the same time giving a popular tax breaks to people who invest in them. Obviously, indirectly, this scheme is being subsidized by those without savings to invest. This is 91% popular with the voters. This will help the GDP. That is my concern right now. We are going to go too high. We will apply the changes. We have 7 political capital left to spend. I believe we have a media monopoly as well. State broadcaster. A state-owned broadcaster can provide impartial, independent news without influence from corporate advertising. This can serve as a defense against bias or fake news, but a compulsory TV tax is not so popular with everybody. This is only popular with 19% of the vote, but we do have a media monopoly going on. I'm going to use 2 of our political capital in this. I am going to apply the changes. We have 5 political capital left to spend. We might do some alcohol tax. Medically, there is a clear case for government to tax alcohol in order to discourage consumption because of its negative effect on health and possible links to social breakdown. On the other hand, those who drink socially see the government benefiting from such a tax to be hypocritical. It's 0% popular with the voters, but we need to raise a little bit of money for our government. I am going to put 3 political capital in this. I am going to apply the changes. We have 2 political capital left to spend. Respiratory disease, asthma, and other lung diseases are a serious problem amongst our citizens. Not only does this obviously severely impact their quality of life, but it also reduces their productivity, filling our hospital beds. Poor air quality, possibly caused by factory pollution and car fumes, together with smoking, are likely the causes. We are still waiting for the reforestation to take effect, but we do need to address our pollution issues. Pollution without enough measures in place to regulate what gets pumped into the air, we have ended up with high levels of pollution. This affects our health levels and quality of life. Not surprisingly, environmentalists are especially upset. I don't want to reduce air travel. That affects our GDP. Microgeneration grants. These grants are given to citizens to help subsidize the cost of energy. Microgeneration systems such as solar panels, wind turbines. This is a good way to take advantage of some people's desire to make a personal step towards cleaner, greener energy, and will increase the country's overall energy efficiency. This is 100% popular with the voters. We will use our last 2 political capital in this. This will reduce CO2 emissions a little bit. This will increase our energy efficiency. The environmentalists will be happy. We are going to apply the changes. We have 0 political capital left to spend. We are at the end of our 3rd term of our 4th year as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 4th term of our 4th year as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. The GDP is down, but health is up. We have a demand from our major donor. One of your major party donors, Elizabeth Wong, is insisting you placate them by implementing specific policy needle exchange program. If you refuse to do so, they will abandon your financial support for the Radical Reform Party. Credit rating downgraded. A major international credit agency has downgraded the status of your government debt. This is likely to have a knock-on effect on your GDP as foreign companies become wary of investing in our economy. It will also result in the interest rate we pay on our debt rising. There is a good chance this will upset your capitalist voters too. You should take action to regain credibility with the rating agency by reducing the level of debt as soon as possible. Your credit rating is now an A. The capitalists are unhappy at negative 5%. The GDP is down at negative 3%, and business confidence is down 15%. Environmental conservation aid. An international organization has committed a large amount of aid to help with the environmental conservation in our country. Our valuable natural environment is suffering, so this injection of a resource to fight decline is most welcome. However, that our government needs such external support has been criticized by patriotic commentators. The Patriots are down at negative 12%. The environment is up at plus 14. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, media monopoly on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. There is a budget deficit of $23.8 billion. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. The polls are optimistic. If an election was held tomorrow, we suspect we would get 81% of the vote. Election report. Our party, the Radical Reform Party, is getting more popular. Last quarter, we added 789,591 new members and 39,479 new activists. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as supportive. Their effectiveness is generally to be considered adequate. Let's take a look at this needle exchange policy. The needle exchange program. Drug addiction itself is bad enough, and dirty infected needles are additional danger to drug addicts. To help out, the needle exchange program will help addicts get clean needles for their needs, while also offering them help in getting clean and living a normal life again. Conservatives may think this as enabling, but the liberals see this as a good way to fight drug abuse in the long run. This is going to use a lot of political capital. It will take 4 quarters to implement. It is 80% popular with the votes. Let's implement this. We'll do medium, and we will apply the changes. We have 5 political capital left to spend. National Business Council. The establishment of a National Business Council gives strong voice to business interests and ensures that the needs of business, both big and small, are taken into account. The council serves as a way to promote capitalism and enterprise and get across the message that the corporate world has much to offer, creates employment and prosperity. This would only take 2 quarters to implement. It wouldn't take that much political capital. It is 100% popular with the voters. It would increase our GDP. Let's implement this. We will go to high right there, and we will apply the changes. We have 3 political capital left to spend. Tax recreational drugs. In some societies that have legalized drugs such as cannabis and psychedelics, there is the temptation to treat consumption of these drugs as a source of government revenue, given the claims that their consumption should be politely discouraged due to the negative effects on citizens' health, in a similar way of the government's taxing alcohol or tobacco. We will raise this to 3. We will generate over $300 million. Let's apply the changes. We have 0 political capital left to spend. We are at the end of our 4th term of our 4th year as Prime Minister of Canada. I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you so much for stopping by our Crooked House. If you like what you saw, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow our future episodes. It really helps us out. Have a great week. See you soon.